Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with my Legendary Lord tier list for Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. At least until Nagash comes out, though who knows what Creative Assembly will do in the meantime and whether or not they will actually achieve a release of the Lords of the End Times in summer this year as they've promised, but we'll find out. Starting with the Beastmen, I would say that all of the Beastmen Legendary Lords, with the exception of Tarax, are in D tier. And that's really because none of them have unique mechanics, and the Beastmen themselves don't work particularly well within the confines of Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires. On diplomacy, on settlements, the fact that they're using Dread for everything in their campaign, just not really a great campaign design. And honestly, I would recommend mods that actually vastly improve the Beastmen situation, like Radius, for instance, or even SFO, if that's your thing. The one exception is, of course, Tarax, and the reason he's higher on this list is because he does actually have a unique mechanic in his campaign. Then we have Bretonnia. With Bretonnia, honestly, I think all of them are F tier. I think just Bretonnia in general leaves a lot to be desired right now in the game. I'm just going to adjust the Kala a bit there so I have more space. The one exception, however, with Bretonnia is actually the Fey Enchantress, who I think is Daniel tier. And yes, Daniel tier is pure humiliation. If you're in Daniel tier, you're not even a Legendary Lord. You're not a campaign worth playing. But Bretonnia just has a lot of issues. These lords don't have unique mechanics. Rapun's kind of does, to an extent, to have some uniqueness to her, but not enough to elevate her beyond F tier. So that's the situation with Bretonnia. It's really a racial issue in all of these campaigns. And honestly, these campaigns themselves, with the exception of Rapun's, are not really great. And again, you're still playing a Bretonian campaign. Then we have the Cast Dwarves. So I think Cast Dwarves are a fairly good race, though my perspective on them is they certainly have not aged in a certain way as they should have. Like, yes, when they were added in Warhammer 3, they were great, fantastic systems and all that. But I don't necessarily think they deserve A tier at the moment. Though, to be fair, Drazov and Astragoth both are fairly strong Legendary Lords, and even though they don't have unique mechanics, they do end up playing differently. Like, Astragoth is all about having a lot of heroes, he can get that, whereas Drazov is more about building a massive industry in the campaign. And that is the reason I would rank them on the same tier, but they do have different campaigns. The one campaign I would put in D tier would be Zaytan the Black, not because Zaytan's campaign design is, or his lore design is so bad, but rather the campaign design, his starting position, starting with the tier 1 settlement, really puts him on the back foot. And his starting situation just doesn't work. Then you have Daniel. I'm not even going to include him. Daniel doesn't even deserve Daniel tier. That's how pathetic he is. Then we have Dark Elves. So yeah, Cast Dwarves, it's really a question of pacing in their campaign, how their resources work. I would otherwise put them higher. I mean, you can certainly work around that, but the fact that you have to work around to get to a similar level as other races, and then you just steamroll the map, is not great. Then we have the Dark Elves. So Morathi and Malekith, both A-tier campaigns, both really good Legendary Lords. In different ways, I would say Morathi is the better out of the two Legendary Lords, but especially because she can get Druki anointed, so she gets an extra hero, and she has a lot of heroes. Dark Elves in general have a lot of heroes as is. And then we have Hellebron. C-tier, not a horrible campaign, far from it, just rather lackluster mechanics, though one shouldn't underestimate Hellebron. She does have a lot of freaking power in her campaign. Lokir Felhart, S-tier campaign, without a doubt, one of the best campaigns of the game at the moment. He dominates the seas. Aislinn wishes he could dominate the seas as well as he does. And so does the Vampire Coast. Like, the Vampire Coast is just weeping there in the background, considering what has happened to them over the years. But yeah, Lokir literally steals Aislinn's special sea lane. So what more is there to say on that specific subject? Then we have Malice Darkblade. I'm going to go with D tier. I just don't think he's an interesting campaign. Powerful Lord, undeniably so, but just not really interesting. Then we have Rakarth. F tier Lustra, not a great location on the campaign map, but here's the thing. He can't navigate it very well. He's not great with the climate necessarily in Lustra, and because of the movement situation in Lustra, it actually hurts Dark Elves who are all about aggressive expansionism and fighting battles and relying on those battles and the slaves to get going, that Rakarth ends up suffering a great deal. Next up, we have the Dwarfs, so Thorgrim, Ungrim, they're both going to be A-tier Legendary Lords. Dwarves are one of the best races in the game. At the moment, I would dare say. And the thing about it is, obviously Thorgrim gets a lot of heroes, but otherwise he's kind of a generic Dwarf Lord, but that's perfectly fine. Great campaign, dynamic campaign. Ungrim, not necessarily so much, but he does have that unique playstyle with Slayer, so yeah, it's both of them really good, strong Legendary Lords and good campaigns. Then we have Belegar. I'm going to say Belegar gets a seat here. The problem is his campaign, he's very powerful, undeniably so, but again, his campaign design, for all the benefits dwarves have, the fact that you have a massive upkeep increase until you take Karakay Peaks, and then once you do take Karakay Peaks, you get all fulfilled, which is a ton of benefits. Like, you go from a severe disadvantage to a major advantage, but you end up having to fight the campaign either abandoning your starting location or fighting through a plus 50% upkeep situation. I mean, dwarves are great, but yeah, not especially Belegar. Then we have Thoric Ironbrow. I think with Thoric, it's partly a climate issue, partly the campaign design, like him chasing all the artifacts. It's not pure misery as what Belegar can be, but Belegar has a more interesting campaign in quite a few ways. Like, he gets to burn Avalorn to the ground. He gets that fight with Karakay Peaks. Thoric's just, let me expand northward, but also have viable jungle climate. Then we have Grombrindle, S-tier campaign, S-tier Legendary Lord, ridiculous in terms of the blue skill line he has, ridiculously powerful, and can be a lot of fun just building a massive dwarf empire, so that's really good. Malachi Makason, S-tier campaign, arguably one of the best campaigns of the game. Like, it's kind of discussion, who has the best campaign in the game at the moment? Like, it could be Loki, or it could be Malachi, it could be Trog. But certainly Malachi with his adventures, Gotrek and Felix does, he was the single best campaign by far until, you know, the rework to Lokir and the rework to Trog. Now it's a bit of a discussion. It's like, who exactly is the best? Well, I'll tell you who's certainly not the best, and that is Miao Ying. Like, Miao Ying's entire campaign design plus Cathay's racial design doesn't quite work. Her starting position is limited. Her starting province is not especially great. The Great Bastion is a very questionable system. And really, her skill line, her faction effects are not really worth it, considering everything. Then we have Cathay. Then we have the proper Lords of Cathay. And you know what? Think about, maybe I should put the Cast Dwarves higher, or maybe I should put Cathay lower. So yeah, Yan Bones, Yao Ming, very strong Legendary Lords, dynamic campaigns, much better campaigns than Miao Ying. In fact, I'm going to put Miao Ying in F tier. Yes, I know. Well, honestly, she's not an F tier campaign, but she really deserves a difference in tier than just one compared to Xiao Ming and Yan Bo. They have much better campaigns, especially Xiao Ming. Then we have Grimgor Ironhide, just like the quintessential Greenskin Legendary Lord in the game. It's like, what more do you want to say? He beats up stuff. He takes Zarnagrund. He has a lot of heroes. Black Orc big bosses. Black Orc benefits. He's ridiculous. Azak, B tier. Not a bad campaign. Just not necessarily all that special except climate. Surprisingly, he can get a lot of things done for diplomacy with both Vampire Counts and Kislev. Interestingly enough. Skarsnik. Does Skarsnik deserve an S tier campaign? I'm going to have to question it. I think he does absolutely have a pretty good campaign. Him starting with stock stats and giving stock stats to all his armies. That's how Karakay Peaks works better, by the way. from my perspective. I think he has the most interesting character peaks mechanic, actually, out of the 3 Legendary Lords aiming for it. Warzak, also a tier campaign in his own right, pretty solid, gets the job done. You know, lots of focus on magic and savage orcs, or shamans and savage orcs and rogue idols, so he's pretty ridiculous. He makes that work, especially with savage orc shamans. Then we have Grom the Punch. I'm going to say Grom the Punch is an F tier campaign. Like, I know he was beloved in Warhammer 2, but Warhammer 3 is not Warhammer 2, and between his starting position and his mechanic having become rather annoying lackluster compared to others, as well as the distance between him and everyone else, it's like his campaign is a nothing campaign. He's the least interesting Greenskin campaign, because even Warzak, at least Warzak's incentivized to head up north and encounter other Greenskins and confederate them, whereas with Grom, you're going west. You're going further away from the other Greenskins. Gorbat, I'm going to say Gorbat is C tier. His unique campaign mechanic is a nothing mechanic. He does have an interesting starting position, if you will. He is a good lord from a special skill line. Like, C tier is not horrible, boys and girls. It's like middle of the road, really, in the tiers. And that's kind of where I think Gorbat lands as a legendary lord. Then we get into the discussion of High Elves. I think Tyrion is definitely an A tier campaign. I'll probably will have to shrink this picture of Dekala even further. Sorry about that. Because there's a lot of legendary lords, and this list is not equal. There's not an equal number of lords in A tier, B tier, all that. But yeah, I think Tyrion is pretty strong. Very good campaign if, you know, you're just getting started and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you're looking to play a campaign in Warhammer 3 and you're a beginner, Tyrion is a highly recommended one. He does scale pretty well in the late game. I don't think it's a great campaign. That's why I'm not putting an S tier, but that's more to do with the High Elven rework situation as well as victory conditions and anything else. Teclis. Honestly, like, I think CA tried to do better with Teclis, and I think they failed. Like, he just isn't an interesting campaign. His starting position is still miserable. Oh, you can take Safri and then get to fight in a crowded wolf one. What fun. And the whole magic that he has, like, you look at Gelt. Gelt is a much better campaign because he has that choice between staying in Cathay, going back to the Empire, having a lot of choices in the Empire. And mind you, Gelt is not perfect as a campaign either, but he has a lot more interesting things going for him. Whereas Teclis, he's not even that great of a caster, really. I mean, he can cast a lot of spells, but yeah, just not really that fantastic. Alariel, C tier. I do rank her higher than Teclis, though I think her campaign can be pretty frustrating. Her unique campaign mechanics just not really that great. We're starting to see a pattern, really, except the Cathayan ones, who it's more of an issue of Cathay itself. Like, Yambo certainly has powerful campaign mechanics, though the Compass thing sucks. But yeah, Alariel, powerful legendary lord, lots of handmaidens, lots of power available to her, but just an annoying campaign. If you do get past our early game, you are the dominant empire builder of the High Elves. Then we have Alif Anar. I'm also going to say this is an A-tier campaign. I think he's really strong. I think he has a unique playstyle. I think he gets a lot of benefits. And to some extent, the High Elf rework has benefited him. Not as much as it should have, but the climate change situation has definitely improved his campaign quite a bit. Like, he gets an extra climate, so that means he's no longer hurting for taking Wolf one, and because of confederation with other High Elves. Not quite an S tier one. Alfarian, yeah, C tier as well, maybe even lower, but the thing is, like, Alfarian has that dual starting campaign situation. He has to fight a lot of battles manually. He's a pretty cool legendary lord in terms of his design, but the practicality of his campaign leaves a lot to be desired. And then Emmerich, B tier, just not as good as the others, though can be a pretty fun, interesting campaign in certain parts. But yeah, just not as good as Tyrion and Tyrion and Alifanar. Then we have Sea Lord Acelin, and I think Sea Lord Acelin is an F tier campaign. Because, yes, he is actually worse than Teclis. And the reason I say that, here we have a campaign where a lot of buildings are locked behind technology, which is not great, because that's essentially what the sewer domination is. And it is freaking slow. Your dragon ships are locked behind the sewer domination as well. So what that creates is a situation that's genuinely worse than everything that the Chaos Dwarfs have to deal with. Because whatever issues the Chaos Dwarfs have with their resource system, slowing them down in terms of unit caps and such, Acelin has it worse because Chaos Dwarfs can get past that. Whereas with Acelin, you just need to conquer a vast amount of territory in order to get at sewer domination through buildings. And it's a trickle that then becomes a flood. So that's even another problem similar to Chaos Dwarves, that you start out very slow. Sure, your baseline armies are strong, but limited. Limited in buildings, limited in your dragon ships, limited in upgrading said dragon ships. Because remember, you still need dragon ship supplies, hero capacity, and your region trading doesn't work. You can't region trade. As High Elves, which are a faction focused or a race focused on diplomacy, and region trading is pretty important on that level. So that is why Acelin just flat out doesn't work. Cool legendary lore design as a character, skill line, etc., but not so great of a campaign. Then we have Khorne. So with Khorne's Scarbrand is an 8-tier campaign. I think he's pretty solid, even though he doesn't have necessarily anything special, but Khorne is pretty awesome. Great unit variety. Yes, it's all melee units, but they do serve different purposes, and you have a lot of fun with Khorne. Even on diplomacy level, funnily enough, Khorne is actually pretty damn good in terms of diplomacy, unlike Acelin, which is saying a lot. Then we have Arbold Undefeated. Yes, he's a broken legendary lord. Yes, he's overpowered, but he is damn fun. Unlike Skulltaker, who isn't so fun, I think his entire campaign, his starting position, the mechanics of the campaign do leave a lot to be desired. I would rather play a Scarbrand campaign than play a Skulltaker campaign. And honestly, Scarbrand's starting position is not necessarily great. At least it's not freaking Lustria. Then we get into Kislev. I'm going to say Katrin is a D-tier campaign. Not horrible, just not special. Oh, she buffs Ice Guard. Okay. There are so many awesome units in Kislev's roster. You want to pick the unit that's mediocre in both melee and ranged, who are only specialized against demons, which are not necessarily the biggest problem that you'll be dealing with as Kislev, by the way. With a campaign where your supporters are limited, your starting position is actually the worst of all Kislev campaigns. Yes, Borosaurus, you can argue about him, but he can dominate Archaon very quickly, and that's pretty powerful. Then we have Kastaltin. I'd say just C tier, and I'm being generous with this, but he does have a better campaign dynamic. Orthodoxy is better. The city he starts is actually useful, unlike Kislev City. So yeah, Kastaltin is C tier. Borosaurus, I hesitate to put him in A tier, but Kislev does have a lot of power, and he gets that power through supporters. He negates climate penalties in a lot of different ways, and he wipes out Archaon very, very damn quickly. But yeah, not quite an A tier campaign from my perspective, though pretty damn close. Good climate options as well. Then Ostankia, I'm going to say a flat out. For all the benefits Kislev has, Ostankia just has a piss-poor campaign design that is really annoying. Top power abilities, constantly building hexes, all that kind of stuff just doesn't really work, I think. Like, it's just one of the worst design campaigns, but let's just go and be a bit generous and put her in F tier, not Daniel tier. Daniel tier is for campaigns that are completely irredeemable at the moment, which is Mazdamundi. Yes, the Lizardmen rework was not good enough because the people designing it felt that they could make... they didn't want to go far enough with that because they felt it's like, oh, we need a certain playstyle. They didn't do anything for Mazdamundi. He's one of the most powerful spellcasters in the lore, and he certainly doesn't feel like that. Lord Croak is a better spellcaster. His entire campaign just is really lackluster and not worth playing. Mind you, the rest of the Lizardmen are not in a better position, so I'm going to say that every other Lizardman Legendary Lord is F tier. Some are stronger than others, obviously. But yeah, I just don't think Lizardmen are a great race to play at the moment. I think they've been improved a bit, but honestly, it's just... they didn't go far enough to actually make their campaigns worthwhile. Even with Nakai. The only exception is Axial, who I think is just going to go in B tier. Like, he can have a decent amount of fun. He used to be one of the best campaigns in the game just because of the dynamic nature of this campaign with objectives, but our campaigns have that dynamic objective system, and they're part of better races. So yeah, sorry Axial, he's been degraded. Things have changed. Then we get into Norsca. I think Wulfric is a B-tier campaign. He's not broken, but he's not necessarily special. His unique mechanic is actually tied to him, not his faction. So you can just play Trog, who's an S-tier campaign, Troll Empire, extra growth, much better situation in his campaign. Again, Wulfric is not bad. Like, nothing above D is bad, necessarily. Just not special. And from that perspective. And then we get Sail the Faithless. Yeah, Sail the Faithless is a Daniel tier campaign. Let's take a naval-focused race and put him on land where he can't get to the sea for a very long time. Let's make him take 30 altars for a damn ritual as a campaign objective. Let's give him a unique campaign mechanic that is practically worthless. Yeah, Sail is genuinely one of the worst campaigns in the game to play at the moment. Not weak, but just... really a nothing campaign altogether. Then we get into the subject of Nurgle. So I'm going to say that from a Nurgle campaign perspective, Kugath is... I'm going to say it. I think like both Kugath and Epidemius are F tier. I just don't think Nurgle is that well designed at the moment as a race. Like, they reworked it, they improved it quite a bit, but the constant mismatch between using the same resource for plagues as you use it for buildings doesn't end up working all that well in a Nurgle campaign. Then we have Tarmogon. I think Tarmogon is... I'll be a bit harsh. I think climate situation and Nurgle's inherent issues do limit Tarmogon. Really powerful Legendary Lord, don't get me wrong, but he's certainly not on the same level as freaking Chaos Dwarfs. Then we get Ogres. So I'm going to say the Ogres are B tier. Not a horrible race, far from it, pretty workable, but, you know, annoyances with bounties, Man-Eater just waltzing across the map. Powerful. All of them are very powerful, and what I would say about Ogres, every single one of campaign, be it Greasus, Scrag, or Man-Eater, they have very unique campaign playstyle. So that's one of the benefits of them. They're just not really higher from my perspective. Then we get Skaven. So Queek, A tier, maybe even S tier, but really, generic Lord, sure, but he does work. He's very dangerous. Try fighting a massive empire that Queek builds, you will be fighting for a very, very long time. This guy is one of the most dangerous AI factions in the entire game. And you can use that power. Sure, Skarsnik does get stock stand solo his armies eventually. Queek just starts with that from the beginning of his campaign, so that's pretty good. Then we have Lord Skrulk. I would say, like, his campaign works much better than you think. I think he actually has the best campaign on Lustria because he has the Underway, which just says a lot about Lustria's design. Not horrible, but yeah, not great. Tretch Craventail. Yeah, let's be a bit generous with Tretch and not put him in Daniel tier. But yeah, if there is a Legendary Lord that could be considered worthless on this list, it would certainly be Tretch. Not terrible. He's still Skaven, but he might as well not exist. Quake is just a better version of it. He's better with Storm Vermin. He's better with the Starlight position. Just a flat-out better campaign than freaking Tretch. Ikeclaw. I'm going to go B tier, and the argument I'm going to use here is I think Ikeclaw has a very fun dynamic campaign, or fun systems in his campaign. The problem is starting position sucks. Skaven Blight being a single region province limits that potential. It is one of the most annoying starts in the game. Once you do get going, you do get freaking going. Then we have Snitch. Also, an A-tier campaign. Very unique playstyle, focusing on skirmisher infantry, if you will, assassinations, all those kind of powerful things that Snitch has. He actually has one of the best Skaven starting positions in the game. And Cathay is a pretty fun place to actually have a campaign or an early game in. Then we have Fraught the Unclean. I'm going to go with C for Fraught. I think that he has the same problems as Ikaclaw without the cool factor that Ikaclaw has, so that's where I stand. Then we have Slaanesh. So Slaanesh, when we're talking about Slaaneshi campaigns, let me just move the call a bit over there because I keep zooming in, zooming out. There's a lot of legendary lords in this game. With Slaanesh, I would say they're all D tier. Let me go over, except the Mask, who I would probably rate as being higher, though I'm not sure I want to put her in B or A. Slaanesh's inherent problems is they have powerful armies. They don't have great siege situation, which is a big problem for any faction. And that is something that does hurt them. I would have given a lot more to have freaking siege equipment or wall breaker units in a Slaaneshi campaign than Druki units. Seriously, yes, giving Slaanesh range units is powerful, but it would have been more useful to have wall breaker units. That would have made things better. The reason Nakari is in D tier because that's just where I think the baseline of Slaanesh is, and Nakari is essentially the generic lord of Slaanesh. The Kala is there because resource systems and starting position, which is in a corner, doesn't necessarily work out all that well. To be fair, the Kala and Nakari are both really freaking crazy in field battles, but this is not necessarily the game where we fight a lot of field battles. And again, the problem with Slaanesh is all the cool shit is bad in auto-resolve. So enjoy using Forsaken of Slaanesh and Slang Wars if you don't have that, and Chosen of Slaanesh, and not demonic units because you'll just lose an auto-resolve. So if you enjoy fighting every single battle manually, the Mask is higher because the Mask doesn't have a crappy resource system that's inferior to the Cast Dwarves in every single way. And the Mask literally is the campaign where, the one Slaaneshi campaign where you can actually use more unit variety. The reason is the Mask buffs the armor of every army in her faction, which means you can go full on demonettes and actually not suck in auto-resolve, forcing you to fight every battle manually. Then we have Karl Franz, S tier campaign, undeniably so. Great options, great deal of choice, confederates every legendary lord of the empire through his unique mechanic, and you have more choice than just sticking it in the empire. You can go in Bretonnia, you can go far in the field. You don't have to necessarily conquer the entire empire if you don't care about it. I mean, sure, some things you do care about. Gelt, I'm gonna go with Gelt and put him in B tier. Cool legendary lord, cool design, etc., but a bit broken. Seriously, just a bit the surplus points he gets when he returns to Empire is ridiculously broken. It's 0% upkeep as well when that happens. Yeah, a bit questionable on that level with Geld, and he just trivializes the game, so I'm not sure I would say he's up there. Then we have Volkmar. I'm gonna go in F tier. Honestly, he kind of feels like the most generic Lord of the Empire, and he also deals with the Books of Nagash system, which is not great for a campaign at the moment in Warhammer 3. Then we have Marcus Wolfhard, the one Lord of the Empire that's not worth considering to play right now. So, yeah, I would say Marcus Wolfhard is a very outdated. He was not great even when he was introduced. There's never really been a point when he was good. Except when Warhammer 3 launched, and Karl Franz and Gelt was pretty terrible because of Imperial authority and how that worked. Then we have Elspeth. I'm going to say Elspeth is a bit higher than Gelt. I was tempted to put Gelt in A tier, by the way, so just worth pointing out. But yeah, I don't think she's quite S tier, but she does have a very easy campaign, one-dimensional campaign. She's just not Karl in that respect. Then we have Tomb Kings. Well, let's say this about the Tomb Kings. Cathay is in Daniel tier, and the main reason he's in Daniel tier, here's a Tomb King campaign where your campaign objective is to go back to Nehekara. Yay! Doesn't make sense in the lore why the hell he's so far away. He never left Nehekara as far as we know in the lore. And, yeah, just not really a great campaign design. Then we have Khalida. I'm going to go with F tier for Khalida. Not terrible as a campaign. Can work, but, yeah, not particularly great either. Arkhan the Black, I would be a bit generous and say he's in C tier. He does get an extra army. He does have a much better campaign situation than others. But yeah, just still not necessarily a great campaign. Then finally we have Cetra. Yeah, I'm just going to put Cetra firmly in D tier. The Empire Builder of the Tomb Kings. But Tomb Kings still not a great race because CA can't do reworks for shit. Then we have Kairos Fate Weaver, F tier campaign. Seriously, it's like Siege is one of those nothing races to play in the game. Just flat out not worth playing whatsoever. He's not terrible. He's a pretty powerful magic user. It's just the entire Siege playstyle is pretty busted. And then you have the Changeling. It's like, yeah, Changeling. Hold on. Let me try and sort this out. Yeah, Changeling just kind of freaking worthless campaign system. I'm trying to sort this out. Give me a moment. So that I don't occupy the entire screen. Actually, maybe I should just... Nah, I'm gonna stick with this. Alright. So yeah, you can't necessarily see the Daniel tier, but then again, who cares about the Daniel tier? Let me just try and move. There we go. That could help a bit. Vampire Coast. Yeah, all of them are in Daniel tier. None of them are worth playing. The Vampire Coast is just a completely rubbish race. If you want to play an evil expansion race, Dark Elves are there. They're much better. They actually have a workable unit roster and unique campaign mechanics for some of them. Not all of them. Morathi and Loki at least have unique campaign mechanics. And Malekith's just a really solid, steady guy. Then we have Manfred. Vampire counts are an interesting race. They work pretty well within the context of Warhammer 3, but Manfred's just a worthless campaign. It's like the least interesting to play out of the bunch in a lot of different ways. Say what you will about Gorst, at least he gets all those zombie hordes, which is unique, even if it's boring as dirt. But yeah, I'm going to also put Gorst in F tier, just 2 campaigns not worth playing. Kemmler. Kemmler, I would say, is firmly in B tier. He's actually got a lot more flexibility in how he tackles his campaign, both diplomacy, actually. Like, you can ally the Empire if you want to, or human factions. You can ally Chaos, or you can try and ally both. It's not going to work out very well for you, but just pointing out, it is doable. Which, yeah, it's pretty, it's a bit interesting. I think he has better victory conditions than Vlad and Isabella. Obviously, Vlad and Isabella have much better campaign systems, have much better campaign systems available to them inherently. Then we go into Warriors of Chaos. Jeez, that's a list. So, out of the Warriors of Chaos campaigns, I think Be'lakor is C tier. I'm not going to put them higher because I think Warriors of Chaos are just break the game in such a way that they're not necessarily as fun to play. But if you want the toy box campaign, it's like Be'lakor is right there. He's very widely available. He has the ability of confederating all the Warriors of Chaos and Champions of Chaos, so Monogod and Undivided, if you own those DLCs. He has unlimited gifted units. He starts with all of the gifts unlocked, the gift slots unlocked. He has 2 vassals, very safe starting position. The reason he's not higher is because, again, Warriors of Chaos just trivialize the game. And then when we talk about the others, well, I would say Village is in Daniel tier, just not worth playing as a campaign whatsoever. Festus, D tier. If you want to play a Nurgle campaign and actually use freaking plagues in your campaign, Festus is the way to go. Tamarkan is higher because his unique thing is his chieftains, not the plagues. Festus, yes, you don't have buildings for the resource, but given how Nurgle campaigns play out, you'll actually have more infections than the other two. Archaon, yeah, I'm gonna say Archaon has a wide availability of units in his campaign, but just not really a fun campaign. Is very slow, and Warriors Gas devastate enemy races from the beginning of it, so not really worth talking about. And the rest of them, yeah, I would say the Slaaneshi ones certainly in F tier. They're not horrible. They can get the job done. Just Warriors Cast not really overplaying. Certainly not with Slaaneshi focus. Though Sigvald is actually undivided. He's not Slaanesh. Kolick is also undivided, but he's also bugged at the moment. So yeah, Daniel tier. Ever since they've done Tides of Torment, he's actually been missing a starring Vassal in his campaign. But really, I don't think you should deduct too many points. You can make it work. It's not really the biggest problem. What about Valkia? Well, here's the thing. She certainly trivializes campaign as everyone else, and she doesn't have the unit roster uniqueness as Be'lakor, but she's actually kind of fun. As fun as Warriors of Chaos can be. Be'lakor has a lot of unit variety and teleportation, but Valkia is just straight up ridiculous on the battlefield, and it's hilarious just vassalizing everyone in her starting location. Seriously, everyone. Yeah, Grombrindle, Malekith, Hellebrand, everyone else, because you can do so. Various options, diplomatic, subjugation. Doesn't work with dwarves, but it does work with Dark Elves. So yeah, just a ridiculous level of nonsense. And then Wood Elves. So I think Orion is Daniel tier. Absolutely not worth playing as a campaign from my perspective. I don't think he's really worth touching. I don't think he's worth going for. Then we have Durfu. Durfu is a bit more fun, but with Elves, just nothing really. Same with Sisters of Twilight. And then finally we have Draika. I think Draika can be a bit of a fun campaign. Just malevolent forest spirits, just a ridiculous army, and fighting Wood Elves in a campaign. But yeah, Wood Elves are just not really a great race. And that's my Legendary Lord tier list for Total War Warhammer 3. And in case anyone is questioning it, then yes, Daniel is in Daniel tier. I just think he's so worthless as a Legendary Lord, he doesn't even deserve a spot on this list. But this is my perspective. I'm sure there's going to be many disagreements on this. It's like, oh, God forbid you say all of the Lizardmen are terrible. They are terrible. Same with, Aisling, Grom, and all that. But this is where I stand. And I emphasize this. This list is about whether or not a campaign worth playing. It's not a strength list. If we want to talk about strength, and Warriors of Chaos, and then Wood Elves would be far above everyone else alongside Arbol, for instance, right? And others as well. It would be a ridiculous. But is this campaign worth playing? Does it give you a fun variety? Is it offering you a great experience? It's not necessarily about a campaign offering challenge, because Arbol certainly doesn't have that, but he does have a really fun, unique experience. So that's where I stand. Kostin signing out.